Hi, this is my video guide on how to get the counters during the boss fights in Malicious Rebirth. Triggering all the counters for each boss does count towards the trophy Count to Master, and you must trigger them in both chapters of Malicious Rebirth in order for it to go off. And if you're going for this trophy, I highly recommend you do this in free mode, because in free mode you have all the weapons and upgrades available to you. This is the order of stages for this playthrough. This one starts at the very start of the stage. Just make sure to have the fist upgrade, the claw, available. Keep your distance between you and him. Just try to evade his attacks and the other enemies attacking you. Run up close to him and land a few punches and back off. If you stay close to him for too long, he won't pull off the counter. Well, I'll be honest with you, this has happened in my first attempt with this boss in free mode. As you may have noticed, when fighting these bosses, the counters appear at random. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you don't. But I will say that this counter will appear during the second phase of this fight. Just have the spear upgrade, the whip, with you. So I ran into another surprise while doing my first attempt for this stage in free mode. I do remember saying in my S rank guide for this that his counter only appears during the second phase. It seems I am wrong on that. I want to say, just stay close to him and be on the ground in order to trigger it. But it's really dangerous as he will not only throw punches around, but he will pull out his guns on you, causing heavy damage if you get stuck and can't get out of his firing range. I already knew that this stage was going to annoy me when trying to get the counter to appear. This one is just as random as the others. The best thing I could tell you is wait around during the second phase of the fight until they feel like making the counter show up. I want to say that when they attempt to drop kick you altogether is when it goes off. But as you can tell by what I recorded, I can't even confirm that's what triggers the counter. My first attempt with doing the counters for this boss fight, I learned some interesting things about this boss. I didn't know that if you wait too long he would have a barrier going up, and he eventually stands up. Whenever he is standing and is about to throw his orange tentacles at you, be close to him to get the trigger to go off. As for the other counter, all I could say is just stay close to him until the counter goes off. The counter for this boss can happen anytime during this part of the boss fight, but there is a certain distance you have to be in order to trigger it. You have to be close to her, but also not too far, otherwise it won't work. And she will only do the counter when throwing her weapons at you. This one has changed from the original version on the PS3. But the main requirement is having the spear with you and it will eventually go off. As you can see, staying close to her triggers it, but staying very far won't work. The counter for this stage goes off during its second phase only. It's also a silly one. You have to be directly underneath him. So just follow him when he starts to climb to the top. There are times when he will just jump to the side and come back down. It does get annoying after a while when he toys with you like that. Break all the platforms on him and then stand a certain distance between you and him. Use the towers to help you get that certain distance. It's basically his headbutt attack. It must be done in the air in order for the counter to go off. This has to be the most random counter to deal with. It's more random than the Forbidden Floor stage. The main requirement is to break off his shield. After that, you have to stand a certain distance and wait for him to throw his guns up in the air and hit against each other. Just hope that he will eventually feel like doing the counter. The counter will only go off during the first phase. If he goes into the second phase, just start over. If you get impatient trying to get this counter, I can't blame you. The trigger for this counter has changed big time, unlike the PS3 version. All I know is, from my experience, if you get behind him, he will trigger it. I've tried standing in front of him a few times and he just repeats the same thing. It doesn't help that he moves towards you most of the time, so just run underneath him back and forth a few times. You must be on the ground in order to trigger it, and it has to be done during the first part of this boss fight. I saved this boss stage for last, because it has 4 counters. They are almost as random as the Royal Battle Escort. The best advice I can tell you is keep moving around a lot. Stand in front of him first to trigger the sword counter. You don't have to be very close to him. You can jump on the floating pieces of land to get that certain distance. The first one you have to be very close to him. To stay on the platforms and he will try to throw a punch at you. The 2 lance counters are done by both of his hands, so just go to his left hand. Then fly all the way to his right. I will admit I did not expect to get all 4 counters during this recording, but I'm glad I was able to get it out of the way. Thank you for watching this video guide on how to get the boss counters in Malicious Rebirth. As you may or may not have noticed, these counters are random. Just because it looks like I was able to pull them off easily, you just have to be patient. Figure out where to stand between you and the boss in order to make them trigger it. Normally, this is where I would say please like, comment, and subscribe, but since the YouTube commenting system is all jacked up, you can get a hold of me by my Twitter page, or just leaving likes and subscribing is good enough too.